What if the worst day of your life wasn't a curse but a test? What if the heartbreak that tore you open was exactly the moment you were meant to wake up? When she left, looked you in the eye with no emotion, pulled away like none of it mattered. You thought that was the end. You thought your world shattered. You stopped eating, stopped sleeping, staring at your phone, waiting for an apology, an explanation, anything to make sense of the pain. But it never came. Here's the truth, no one tells you. Closure is a myth. You don't get closure, you create it. You don't find peace, you earn it through fire, silence. Every sleepless night when your chest feels like it's collapsing, that's where it begins. She thought you'd break, spiral, beg, become a ghost of yourself, crying behind closed doors while stalking her socials, wondering who she's with. But not you, not anymore. You took that pain and made a decision. No more chasing, no more pleading, no more losing yourself to people who walk away like you meant nothing. You stepped into stillness, control, into the path of the stoic. Because a man who knows his worth doesn't chase, he withdraws, builds, disappears. Not to punish her but to protect himself and rebuild his center. The moment you stopped reacting, she noticed. The moment you stopped playing her game, the dynamic shifted. The one who cares less holds the power, but the one who masters himself becomes untouchable. This is where the real story begins, not with heartbreak or betrayal, but with rebirth. This isn't about getting her back, it's about getting you back, sharper, colder, calmer. A man with presence who doesn't need attention because he commands respect and silence. You didn't break, you ascended. You became unreachable. If you're done bleeding for someone who walked away like it was easy, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. She lost access to a king. Number 1. Pain is the forge. She thought the heartbreak would break you, and for a moment, it did. You collapsed under the weight of it. The silence felt like 1,000 knives. You questioned everything: your worth, your value, your identity. How could someone who once looked at you like you were everything now walk away, like you were nothing? That's exactly what she expected. She expected you to fall into the same pattern as every other man she left, spiraling into texts, calls, desperate to be seen, to be heard, to matter. But you didn't. You went dark. You faced the storm alone. And in that silence, something happened. The pain didn't just hurt, it carved. It stripped away the illusion, the comfort, the fantasy. You were forced to sit with the raw truth. Nobody's coming to save you. And that realization, that was the moment you were born again. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Epictetus said, "Difficulties are things that show a person who they are." The heartbreak didn't ruin you. It revealed you. It showed you the cracks in your foundation and gave you the blueprint to rebuild stronger than before. You stopped asking why she did it and started asking what you could become because of it. You stopped reacting emotionally and started observing with clarity. You stopped bleeding out for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage and started building armor. Real men don't run from pain. They don't numb it, drown it, or avoid it. They walk straight into it because pain is a forge and only fire can shape steel. Every sleepless night, every unanswered text, every flashback that gut punched you out of nowhere, that wasn't weakness. That was resistance training, mental weightlifting. You were being hardened. And when the time came, when the noise faded and the emotions finally settled, you weren't broken anymore, you were transformed. She expected to find you shattered. But when she looked back, you weren't there because the man she left behind no longer exists. In his place is someone sharper, quieter, stronger. She tried to break you, but you became unreachable. Number 2. The illusion of control. She thought she had you, not just your heart, but your mind, your attention, your energy. She believed she could pull away and you'd chase. That if she withheld affection, you'd double down on yours. That if she acted cold, you'd heat things up trying to win her back. But something flipped. You saw it for what it was: control, a subtle game of power dressed up as love. For a while, you played your part. You tried harder. You gave more. You thought if you just explained how much she meant to you, she'd come back around. But she didn't, because control doesn't respond to love. It feeds on imbalance. That's when you unplugged. You stopped trying to control something you never truly had. The Stoics warned against this trap. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." You were suffering over outcomes you couldn't command: her feelings, her choices, her silence. But control is a lie. You don't own anything that can walk away, and you don't beg for what's meant for you. So you did the only thing a real man can do when he's faced with a rigged game. You stopped playing. No more emotional poker. No more waiting on her next move like your peace depended on it. You took your power back, not by lashing out, but by letting go. Letting go of the illusion that love is earned through sacrifice. Letting go of the idea that her return defines your worth. Letting go of trying to steer a ship that was never in your hands to begin with. That's when everything shifted. You became still. You became calm. And suddenly, she noticed. The moment she lost control of your emotions, she lost her grip on your soul. You weren't chasing anymore. You weren't reacting. You weren't trying to fix what was never yours to hold. And that made you powerful. Because here's the truth. The man who no longer seeks to control others becomes impossible to control himself. She thought you'd spiral. Instead, you became a storm she couldn't command. Number 3. Emotional discipline over chaos. She wanted a reaction, not love. A reaction to prove she still had power over you. A desperate message, a meltdown, an outburst. That's how control feeds itself, through your lack of it. She knew exactly which words to say to trigger you, which silences to drop to make you overthink. And for a while, it worked. You rode the emotional roller coaster high. When she paid attention, crushed when she didn't. Your peace was tied to her mood, your value to her approval. But then something shifted. You stopped performing. You stopped responding. You stopped letting her emotional chaos dictate your inner climate. You learned what most men never do. The most dangerous man in the room is the one who feels everything, but shows nothing. Emotional discipline isn't about being numb. It's about control. It's about feeling the storm without letting it consume you. The Stoics lived by this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You realized no one can hijack your peace unless you give them the keys. And you took the keys back. You stopped speaking just to fill the silence. You stopped explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You didn't need closure. You didn't need revenge. You needed clarity. And that came in the quiet and restraint, in choosing not to react when she expected you to lose it. That's when the roles reversed. She couldn't read you anymore, couldn't get a pulse. The man who once poured out his soul now said nothing. And that silence screamed. That control wasn't arrogance, it was discipline. A kind of emotional gravity that pulls power inward, instead of bleeding it outward. You were no longer the puppet. She was no longer the puppeteer. This is the mark of a stoic man, not emotionless, but emotionally armored. He doesn't hide from pain, but he doesn't broadcast it either. He processes it, owns it, masters it, and that mastery turns chaos into calm, and calm into command. Number 4. The power of disappearance. You didn't announce it. You didn't make a scene. You just disappeared. No texts, no stories, no cryptic posts trying to look unbothered. You simply vanished, not out of weakness, but out of power. Because when a man walks away in silence, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. That's the move she never saw coming. She was ready for a reaction, not your absence. She expected you to plead, to prove, to fight for a spot in her life after she made it clear you were optional. But you weren't interested in convincing someone to see your value anymore. You were done selling yourself to someone who already made the decision to walk away. And that silence, that distance, it hit different. Because here's what people don't tell you. The most haunting thing to lose is someone who no longer needs to be seen. When you go dark, when you withdraw without explanation, it disrupts everything. It forces her to sit with her own decisions. It forces her to wonder, to guess, to question whether she overplayed her hand. Because control only works when there's access, and you cut the access off. The Stoics weren't loud men. They didn't explode. They evaporated. They moved with intention, not impulse. Disappearance isn't about ghosting. It's about guarding your energy. It's saying, I choose peace over performance. It's not weakness. It's dominance through restraint. A quiet rejection of chaos. A refusal to keep participating in something that depletes you. And in your absence, something started to happen. The silence she used to punish you with now punished her. Every time she checked her phone and didn't see your name. Every time she scrolled and found nothing. Every time she realized you weren't waiting anymore, that silence became a mirror. And mirrors don't lie. You didn't disappear because you were broken. You disappeared because you were done. Because rebuilding required space. Because becoming the man you were meant to be meant walking away from the version of you that tolerated breadcrumbs. And now you're unreachable, not out of spite, but out of evolution. Number 5. Rejection as redirection. She thought rejecting you was a power move, that it would leave you haunted. That you'd spend months trying to prove yourself, trying to win her back. But what she didn't realize is that rejection doesn't ruin a man, it reveals his path. In that moment when she turned cold, or cut you off, or handed you silence like it was a gift, the universe wasn't punishing you. It was protecting you. Because what you were clinging to wasn't love, it was familiarity. And sometimes the person you want the most is the very one sent to break your illusion. The Stoics didn't resist reality. They accepted it. They didn't label outcomes as good or bad. They saw events as neutral. It's our perception that creates the suffering. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You weren't rejected. You were redirected. That door closed because you were meant to stop walking in circles and start walking in truth. And here's the deeper truth. If someone can leave you that easily, they were never rooted. You didn't lose something solid, you lost a shadow. You weren't thrown away, you were freed. She walked out of your life because she couldn't handle the version of you that was about to emerge, the focused you, the grounded you. The man no longer willing to beg for crumbs or stay small, just to be accepted. What she saw as rejection, you reframed as refinement. You let the pain sharpen you. You let the silence teach you. You started reading more, training harder, working smarter. You took that energy and redirected it into your craft, your mission, your body, your mind. Every scar she left became a blueprint. Every unanswered message a push to evolve. While she expected you to wither, you were building. And now she's looking back not at the man she left, but at the one she can't reach. That's what happens when you stop seeing rejection as a wound and start seeing it as a redirection. She tried to shake your confidence. Instead, she gave you clarity. Number 6. Attraction through detachment. She thought you'd cling harder when she pulled away that. The more distant she became, the more desperate you'd grow. And for a time, maybe you did. Maybe you reached out, tried to fix it, tried to talk things through like closure was something she actually wanted. But nothing changed. Because the more you gave, the less she respected it. That's the trap most men fall into, believing that more effort equals more love. It doesn't. Not with someone who feeds off control. But the moment you detached, not out of bitterness, but from clarity, that's when the entire game shifted. The Stoics knew this truth well. Neediness is slavery. The more you need, the less free you are. So you cut the cord. You stopped obsessing. You stopped caring how she'd interpret your silence. You didn't delete her to get a reaction. You didn't post fake wins to make her jealous. You simply stopped centering her in your life. You redirected your attention inward. You reclaimed your time. And that's when it happened. You became attractive again, not because you tried to be, but because your energy changed. You stopped chasing. You started leading. You became less available, more focused. And just like that, she started to notice. She watched from the shadows, curious, confused. The same man she discarded now looked like a mystery. That's the paradox. When you need nothing, everything comes to you. When you become self-contained, you radiate a power that can't be faked. And this isn't about games. This is about gravity. People are drawn to what doesn't beg for their attention. A man who's emotionally self-sufficient, who no longer chases validation, who can sit alone and still feel full. That's rare. That's powerful. That's masculine. Your detachment didn't make you cold. It made you clear. You stopped responding to tests. You stopped fearing abandonment. You stopped measuring your worth by who stayed or who left. And the second you did that, you became what she never expected: untouchable. Number 7. Purpose over people. She thought she was your purpose, that your world revolved around her, that her attention was your fuel, her approval your oxygen. And maybe for a while, it was like that. You made her the mission. You made her your reason. You were willing to bend, shrink, compromise just to keep her around. But the danger of building your identity around someone else is that the moment they leave, they take your sense of self with them. And when she walked, you were left with the wreckage until you made the most important shift a man can make. You stopped chasing a person and started chasing your purpose. The Stoics taught that the highest good isn't pleasure or approval, it's virtue, discipline, focus, mission. When you don't have a purpose, you obsess over people. But when you lock in on your purpose, everything else becomes background noise. You hit the gym not to get her back, but because your body is your temple now. You buried yourself in your work not to look impressive online, but because your time is currency. You started creating, building, sharpening not for revenge, but because purpose became your fuel. And that's when your energy shifted again. You stopped being the man who used to be with her. You became the man who's too busy becoming something unstoppable. She started noticing the absence not just of your texts, but of your obsession. Your need for her attention vanished. Your validation came from progress, not praise. People think the opposite of love is hate. It's not. It's indifference. And nothing screams indifference like a man too focused to look back, too dialed in to entertain drama, too on mission to care who's watching. That's when attraction becomes a byproduct. You don't chase it. It chases you. She was your weakness once. Now she's just a memory in the rearview, one that taught you the difference between wanting someone and needing something bigger, a purpose over people. Every time. Number 8. The shift in power. She didn't think twice when she walked. She thought you'd be stuck, thought you'd live in your head rent-free while she moved on without a scratch. She assumed you'd check her socials, overthink her silence, stay frozen in place hoping for a comeback that was never coming. But that's not what happened. You fell back. You went dark. You didn't explain, didn't beg, didn't chase. And in doing so, something subtle but powerful began to shift. The power dynamic flipped. At first, she felt in control. But slowly, that silence she weaponized turned on her. She started checking your page, waiting on your message, wondering who you're with, what you're doing, why you're so damn calm. Because here's the thing about power. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It's felt. And the second you stopped giving her access to your mind, your energy, your peace, she felt it. The attention she once took for granted. Gone? The man who once hung on her every word. Unreachable. The Stoics didn't chase outcomes. They owned themselves. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask, "Why doesn't she love me?" He asked, "What is in my control?" And that's what you mastered. You stopped trying to influence her behavior and mastered your own. You moved with discipline. You posted with purpose. You spoke less, moved smarter, trained harder. And the less she knew about you, the more she wondered. People don't miss what they have constant access to. They miss what they can't figure out. And now, you're a mystery. That shift in power didn't come from manipulation. It came from evolution, from emotional self-respect, from no longer asking for a seat at the table because you realized you build your own. She thought leaving you meant control, but she miscalculated, because the man she thought was broken is now building, and the version of you she left behind, gone, replaced by someone she can't read, can't reach, and maybe can't replace. Number 9. From broken to bulletproof. There was a time when just seeing her name could wreck your whole. A picture, a memory, a scent. You'd spiral. Tight chest, racing thoughts, no appetite. You felt broken, like a shell of the man you used to be. And that's exactly what she expected. That the damage would linger, that you'd carry that weight forever. But pain has an expiration date. If you let it, what once shattered you now sharpens you. What once triggered you now fuels you. You didn't stay broken. You turned the wound into armor. Now, you're bulletproof. This didn't happen overnight. There were setbacks, weak moments. But the difference now, you feel pain without being owned by it. You don't flinch when her name pops up. You don't pause your life to check what she's doing. You don't fantasize about what if. That part of you is gone. You stopped waiting to feel ready and started building regardless. The gym became your therapy. Books became your mentors. Solitude became your edge. The noise faded, the chaos cleared, and what emerged was a man in full control of himself. The Stoics saw adversity as fuel. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." You trained your mind the way you trained your body, reps, over and over. You didn't numb yourself. You faced it until it didn't own you anymore. You didn't run from pain. You outlasted it. Now you're composed, quiet, focused. You don't respond out of emotion. You observe. You calculate. You move with intention. You learn how to sit with discomfort and come out stronger on the other side. You stopped reacting like a boy and started deciding like a man. She thought you'd be stuck in pieces. Instead, you forged armor from the very things that tried to destroy you. You don't get rattled. You don't chase. You don't explain. You just keep moving. Calm, collected, bulletproof. Number 10. You are the prize. She thought walking away would destroy you. That you'd crumble, spiral, fade into nothing. That your value was tied to her presence. But she was wrong. Because what she didn't see, what she couldn't see, was that you were never dependent on her. You just hadn't realized your own power yet. The man you are now, she wouldn't even recognize him. You didn't just survive the loss. You transcended it. You stopped waiting to be chosen and started choosing yourself. You became the prize. Not because of ego, but because of evolution. You're not loud about it. You don't need to be. You walk different. You speak less. You don't chase. And you definitely don't seek validation from someone who couldn't see your worth when it was standing right in front of them. That version of you, the one who begged, over-explained, overextended, he's gone, dead. Buried in his place is someone focused, solid, unmoved. This is what Stoicism is about. Not coldness, but clarity. Not revenge, but rebirth. You no longer measure your value through someone else's lens. You define it through your discipline, your vision, your ability to stay centered when everything around you wants to pull you off track. You've stopped performing. You've stopped proving. Now you just are. And the irony, now that you've become detached, present, and whole, she wants back in. Now, she watches from the sidelines, wondering how she lost a man who was once so easy to reach. But you're not looking back, because when you finally realize you're the prize, you stop trying to fit into places that shrink you. You stop entertaining people who fumbled you. She didn't break you. She revealed you. And now the man she thought she could play is the man she can't even get close to. You're not angry. You're not bitter. You're just unavailable. Not emotionally shut down, but upgraded. You outgrew her chaos. You outgrew the need to be wanted. You became exactly who you were always meant to be. Undeniable. She thought you'd break. That she could walk away and leave you shattered. But instead, you became a man she no longer has access to. You stopped chasing. You stopped explaining. You stopped bleeding for someone who saw you as disposable. And through that silence, through that storm, you transformed. You didn't just get over her. You got into alignment with who you really are. You found your edge. You found your focus. You found your purpose. And now she's the one looking back, wondering how she lost a man who built himself into something untouchable. This isn't about revenge. It's not about getting her back. It's about never going back. Because you finally understand you were the prize the whole time. She didn't walk away from weakness. She walked away from potential. And now that potential has become power. So if you're done shrinking yourself, done explaining your worth, done chasing ghosts, and you're ready to walk like the storm you've become, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below.